Okay, welcome. We will begin our meeting for Architectural Board Review for November 10th, 2025. We'll start with roll call, please.
Thank you. I'll proceed with roll call. Chair Anderson,
Here.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Here.
Board Member Anderson,
Here.
Board Member Black,
Here.
Board Member Noon,
Here.
Board Member Sovereign.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, thanks. We will begin with public comment. So any member of the public may address the board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within its jurisdiction that is not on today's agenda.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for general public comment. However, if you would like to make a comment, you may fill out a slip and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so. So now we will turn our attention to virtual attendance. And at this time, I do not have any hands raised for general public comment virtually. And we did not receive any written correspondence for general public comment. So at that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
Okay, we will close general public comment and go to the approval of the minutes from the meeting on October 27th, the full board.
Hello, board members. If you could just let me know when to keep scrolling or when to stop, that would help me out. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd make a motion for approval.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote.
Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Abstain.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Okay, then we'll go to the approval of the minutes for the consent meeting on October 20th, 2025. Okay, I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's take a vote.
Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then the minutes for October 27th for consent. Now, this is the one that we did not ratify the motion last time. So would we not vote on the minutes?
Chair Anderson, thanks for the question. Ted Hamilton role, Acting Design Review Supervisor. You may ratify and approve the minutes at this hearing today.
Right, so last hearing, we did not ratify the action and we asked it to come to the board, the full board.
And it's not on this agenda, is it?
No.
Okay. We will have to schedule it for a future date then. I think that was just missed on the agenda, unfortunately.
Okay, so we will not vote on the minutes. Is that what we're?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Then,
Do you need a motion to defer that, Mr. Ron?
The motion could, if you did want to take a vote, it could be to continue it until the next full board hearing.
All right, then I'll continue the minutes for the consent meeting of October 27th to the next board meeting.
okay, I'll second that. Let's take a vote.
Chair Anderson,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes?
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then next item is ratification of action taken on the consent calendar for November 3rd.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I have to remember everybody's names.
It's okay.
Chair Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Anderson. I'll just go ahead and read out the actions for the consent calendar on November the 3rd. They are on page 3 of the full board agenda that was posted. Item 1, 4000 La Colina Road was granted project design approval and final approval. Item 2 for 2126 Castillo Street was granted project design approval and final approval with recommendations. And item 3, Coast Village Road Median Improvement Project was continued indefinitely. And for November the 10th, that was heard today, that was postponed indefinitely, and we will be scheduling it for November 17th.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Oh,
To
I'll make a motion for approval.
ratify.
Ratify, sorry.
Second.
Okay,
Ratify.
let's take a vote.
Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen,
Yes?
Board Member Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, any announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, or appeals?
Yes, so I do have some news for item 3. I just want to reiterate that item 3 has been postponed to December the 2nd. So if anybody's here for that item, it will not be heard today. My second announcement is that the city's planning division is participating in the Cal Poly City and Regional Planning Graduate Studio kind of program. So some graduate students will be in Santa Barbara to present their midterm project for the fall 2025 studio. And we invite you to attend an open house event on November the 14th. They will be set up at City Hall at 735 Anacapa from noon to 2 p.m. in the IT training room. It's kind of by south of the Anacapa Street entrance, kind of by the drop box there. But yeah, hopefully you can make it. And I believe we might have another, let me check my notes here. No, I believe that's it for general announcements. Thank you.
Mr. Herrick's, I participated in the initial part of that planning process, and the challenge to the graduate students is to produce a master plan for Upper De La Vina. So we will be reviewing their work.
Excellent.
Cool. Okay, any subcommittee reports? All right, let's move into item 1. This is a discussion item. It's a single-family streamlining project. So our staff will present an update on proposed amendments to the Santa Barbara Municipal Code associated with the single-family streamlining project and affecting the Architectural Board of Review.
Yeah, give me one moment while I bring up that presentation for Ted Hamilton role. Yeah. There it is. It is, but yeah, you can try that one out. I just don't think you can see the comments. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, board members. Ted Hamilton Roll. I'm going to try to make this pretty quick since I know you've got a big item and a bunch of people in the audience. I'm assuming not for this item, so.
And it's all about streamlining.
All about streamlining, so we will streamline the streamlining presentation. All right, so we're here today or I'm here today to give you an overview of upcoming code amendments that will affect ABR and are associated with the single-family streamlining project. This is a major work effort by the Community Development Department that's been going on for the last couple of years. And it's mostly affecting the single-family design board process. And I'll just be upfront, there really aren't substantive changes to the ABR design review triggers or process. But I just wanted to go to each design review board and let each board know this is coming and that there are minor changes, for ABR at least. All right, so for today's discussion, I'm going to give you a really high-level overview of the project and focus on a handful of code amendments that are going to affect ABR. We're planning to release the full package of code amendments and guideline amendments this week, fingers crossed, and we will advise the board when we do so that you can go read them on the project website. And no formal decision or action is requested today. This is just an update from me. All right. So the major component of this project is to streamline the single-family design board process. And as some of you may recall, back in 2020, there was a community development process improvement study by the NOVAC Consulting Group. And the NOVAC Group's report recommended eliminating the single-family design board or streamlining its process. Obviously, we don't think the community would want to eliminate SFDB, therefore we are proposing to streamline its process. So currently, SFDB is overburdened. The board sees almost 3 times more applications than the HLC or the ABR. And by reducing the number of projects that require SFDB review in the first place and increasing administrative approvals for minor projects, we aim to make SFDB's project count align more closely with ABR and HLC. We have 3 main goals for the project. First is to reduce red tape, make small projects exempt from public hearings. Second is to streamline the public hearing process by consolidating the SFDB review process from 2 steps into 1, and to provide more flexibility for homeowners through amendments to the zoning ordinance. And again, this project won't eliminate the SFDB or even significantly reduce its purview. Instead, the goal is to just make measured, common sense changes that help staff get to yes on more projects. So, where the changes are occurring. We're going to be changing Chapter 22.68, which is where ABR lives in the zoning ordinance, or in the ordinance. Going to be changing Chapter 2269, which is for SFDB, Title 30.220, which is HLC, and then lots of other amendments to Title 30 throughout. We'll also be doing a comprehensive update of the SFDB guidelines and meeting procedures. Back when Title 30 was created, the zoning ordinance, it had placeholder sections for all of design review. So we're bringing all design review over for this project. So there's not going to be any design review chapter in Title 22 anymore. It's all going to be in Title 30, just to consolidate everything. The design review triggers are citywide, even though they're in Title 30. And HLC chapter, the HLC chapter was already moved, so the point is just to bring everything together under one ordinance here. So in addition to that kind of nuts and bolts move, in the ordinance, we're cleaning up the language a little bit and consolidating it. We are changing the mailed notice threshold specifically for additions. And there, again, there's no substantive changes to ABR design review triggers or process. To give you a flavor of some of the changes we're proposing, we are proposing to create design standards from design guidelines. So we have all these wonderful existing design guidelines documents, and they have guidelines in them that boards have applied as standards over the years. So the idea is to take those and just create common sense standards for designers to use. So we'll have new standards for upper story balconies, decks, fences, retaining walls, and more. And applicants have the choice to design to these code standards, or they can go to a design review hearing to request an exception. So examples of new development standards. We have new standards for duplexes, including that the requirement for covered parking is proposed to be eliminated. The number of parking spaces will still be required, but you don't have to put it in a carport or garage anymore. That's the point of that. And this applies to duplexes. For multi-unit properties, there are going to be new objective standards for balconies, privacy, and patio covers. Also, new landscape requirements for landscape in front setbacks, updated open yard requirements, revised hedge, fence, and retaining wall standards, and new terminology. Going back to the concept of optional covered parking, for single and 2-unit residential development, parking spaces are still required, but they don't have to be covered. You can park in an existing driveway. This aligns with ADU regulations, and this also provides significant relief from regulations, increased potential for cost savings, meaning that, if you're building a new development or want to change your parking, you don't have to build a new structure if you don't want to. You can just have uncovered parking. We anticipate this will really help for properties with small, non-conforming garages. We have a lot of garages that were built in the 20s that are tiny for today's current cars and don't meet that 2-car requirement for single-family houses. So this would allow folks in duplexes to replace those garages with uncovered parking spaces. Currently, the ordinance really only allows you to do parking or an ADU in a garage. So you can use your existing garage for parking, or you can convert it to an ADU. There's not much in between that the code allows. But we are proposing to expand what you can do in your garage by just making some common sense amendments. You can do a storage or playroom or guest room. And by removing the requirement for covered parking, this really helps people be able to use their existing floor area in their existing dwelling to convert it to a space that meets their needs, more than just a parking area would. Some other code updates we're proposing are easier to meet open yard requirements, an allowance for small sheds in setbacks, more flexible accessory spaces, and we're also proposing just some cleanups and clarifications to make the zoning ordinance more flexible while still upholding high design standards. So following today's discussion, hopefully this week we're going to be releasing the draft code and guidelines amendments. December 4th of this year is our Planning Commission recommendation hearing. And then in spring 2026, we plan to go to Ordinance Committee and City Council for introduction and adoption of the proposed ordinance. And I am happy to answer any questions. Here's my contact info for anybody interested. And that concludes my presentation.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you. We will open up public comment for item 1.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I will start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips for this particular project. If anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, and I will turn my attention to virtual attendance. And at this time, I do not see any hands raised for comment on this project, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this project. So at that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
Okay, we'll close public comment for item 1. And any questions from board members?
Yes, Chair Anderson. If the items for approval on the Single-Family Design Review Board are exempt from public hearings, are neighbors still notified of those changes within a certain radius?
Board Member Whalen, no, they're not. It's for projects that are exempt from a public hearing, those are exempt from a public notice as well. So they typically we wouldn't do a mailed notice within the 300 feet radius like we would for a noticed public hearing. Mm-hmm. There would still be the requirement for a building permit and a placard posted on the property. So that's one way the public could understand if a project is happening, but
One way.
one way.
All right, that is streamlining. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I was curious on that page you showed about, like, the majority of the overwhelming number of applications is for single family as opposed to ABR, HLC. Do you have a sense of what the nature of those improvements is in terms of, are these typically a very minor exterior modification, or it's an ADU kind of thing, or what? You know what I'm asking, like, in terms of breaking down those 440, what's the nature of those types of projects?
Thank you, Board Member Anderson. That's a really good question. There are just far more single-family dwellings in the city than other types of buildings. And the way that the design review triggers for single-family design board are laid out currently, they capture a lot because we have a trigger that is, if you're in the Hillside Design District, which covers approximately 40% of the city, any exterior alterations to the lot require design review. So it's a combination of having just a lot of buildings and a low threshold for the design review trigger.
Any other questions?
Just curiosity, if the first recommendation that was mentioned was eliminate the SFDB, and your comment was you thought no one, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but that where did that conclusion come from to not do that?
Thank you, Board Member Noon. Another great question. We hear it day to day. You know, we just know that the community wouldn't want to eliminate the single-family design board. It is the board that gets the most public input, I would say, out of the 3 design review boards, simply because you are working with people's homes in their neighborhoods. So there tends to be a fair amount of public interest with SFDB projects. And to add to that, we did do some targeted engagement to people who'd been through the SFDB process. And a lot of them didn't recommend or want to see the board eliminated. They just wanted to see streamlining efforts done.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments before?
I think this is great. Happy to see this kind of progression.
Yes, there's a lot of nuance going on. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have your contact. Okay, well, we will move on to item number 2. This is a new item for concept review, 3845 State Street, the Sears La Cumbre Plaza.
And pardon the interruption, Chair Anderson, but if you'd like me to read the entire scope of work, I don't mind doing that since it's a bit of a mouthful into the record.
Sure, go for it.
All right. Can you use? Yeah, so as Chair Anderson stated, this is for 3845 State Street, and this is technically a new item for conceptual review. The proposed project is for demolition of 2 existing commercial structures, the former Sears store and auto center, and surrounding parking areas located at 3845 State Street, a portion of La Cumbre Plaza, and construction of a 443-unit rental housing development under the city's average unit size density incentive program and SB 330. A tentative parcel map is proposed to divide the 14.19 net acre legal lot into 2 parcels, creating a 9.39 net acre site for the new development, while the existing development would remain on the other parcel. The project would include 35 studio, 194 one-bedroom, 191 two-bedroom, and 23 three-bedroom units in 2 4-story buildings. A total of 478 vehicle parking spaces in a combination of surface, tuck-under, and structured parking would be provided, and 487 bicycle parking spaces would also be provided. The project also includes an approximately 10,000 square foot, 1-story leasing and amenities building. Courtyards and other common outdoor areas provide open yard areas for residents. Sidewalks and improvements to existing access points and a multi-use path along Arroyo Burro Creek on the eastern side of the property are proposed. Site grading in the amount of approximately 50,900 cubic yards of cut and approximately 5,100 cubic yards of fill are also proposed. The project is proposed to be constructed in 2 phases. So no final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. The project will require compliance with the project compatibility findings, urban design guidelines, outdoor lighting design guidelines, and upper state street design guidelines. And with that, I'll hand it over to the presenters.
Okay, so whoever is going to be presenting, you can come up to the table.
Would you like to make
And
staff
it
comment?
had been requested that they would like 20 minutes, so something from the planner?
Yes, thank you, Chair Anderson. My name is Patsy Price. I am the case planner for this project. As we know, this project has some significant public interest, so for the benefit of the public, I thought I'd provide a brief summary of the permit review process. This project is before you today for concept review, and your board last reviewed the project on March 3rd of this year for the pre-application review phase. The formal application was submitted in May. It's currently considered incomplete. There are a few minor items and clarifications necessary for the project to be deemed complete. And staff is currently reviewing the applicant's resubmittal to address those items. So we're very close to a completeness determination. The project does include a tentative map to separate the proposed development from other portions of La Cumbre Plaza Shopping Center. And because Arroyo Burro Creek runs along the property boundary, the municipal code designates the Planning Commission as the review authority for the tentative map. After the tentative map approval, the project would return to your board for project design approval and final approvals. The Planning Commission hearing for the tentative map has not yet been scheduled. As a reminder, because this is a housing project, per state law, the project is limited to 5 hearings total. And the purpose, again, of today's hearing is to get your comments and direction on the project design and feedback on the ABR's ability to make the project compatibility findings, which would happen at project design approval. Also, the applicant has requested that the requirement for story poles be waived. They have provided additional renderings and photo simulations, which are included in the plan set to aid in your review and the public's understanding of the size, bulk, and scale of the project in the context of the surrounding area. So based on that, we request that you provide direction on whether you support the story pole waiver. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Can I
Okay.
ask a question?
Yes.
Question. I know the applicant was here, you said back in March, was it? And were there comments made at that time?
Yes.
And are they documented such that we could see them?
Yes.
We can bring them up.
Yes, I was going to say, through the chair to the applicant team, if you'll notice on your laptop screen, you notice 3 tabs. You should see some of the, one of them says pre-case comments and then pre-case plans. So they're there for reference as you need them.
At the top. I believe everyone was at the meeting, so that's good.
Okay, yeah, these ones.
Maybe a little slower.
Yeah, a little slower so I can read it.
Should I go up one, because the majority of the comments were really up in this first section.
Yeah.
Most of everything else was kind of based off of the original comments.
Excuse me, you want to make sure your microphone is on and you're speaking into the public record.
Yes. I went back to the original, to the upper comments, because most of the subsequent comments were based on the first speaker.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, welcome.
Chair
Yes.
Anderson, first, a clarification from Ms. Price. Since the application is incomplete, that those 5 hearings have not started yet, correct?
Commissioner or Board Member Whalen through the chair. That's correct. The 5 hearing limit begins once the application is deemed complete.
So today's meeting doesn't
Doesn't count toward that 5 hearings.
Thank you, just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Okay, please introduce yourselves, and you have 20 minutes as requested.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Anderson. I'm Dave Eady. Hi, board members. Good to be back to see you. I think it was March we got together, and then in April we had the Planning Commission meeting. And since that time, we've had a tremendous amount of informative input from you and the Commission with respect to our plans. And I think that this fully code compliant program that we have in mind here, the vision has been measurably improved. And of course, it's a lot more detailed this time when you see it. So it's the same team we got here before you today. Scott Baker, with our landscape architects, going to start things off. R.C. Alley with AO Architects. And then any questions and answers you might have, it would be us, as well as another associate of RC's, Mr. Jose Ho, and also our civil engineer, Jeremy Saltz. So I'll leave the everything to go here for you, Scott.
I'm excited that the whole deck is here, and I've got to hunt through and find the salient pieces. So we had something nice and coordinated for you.
What?
Yeah, it's just,
While you're hunting, I might add that we did send you a pretty voluminous matrix of your comments and how we addressed each and every one of them. So you should have that in your files.
Yeah, we don't have that.
That would actually be very helpful, if that is.
Apologies, we thought that had been transmitted to you last week with the packet.
Nothing was transmitted to us last week. So,
I will see what I can find in the
Okay.
in the project case. Thank you.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Proceed, sir.
Good afternoon, Scott Baker with Realm Landscape Architects. I'll quickly I want to focus on kind of the key changes and some picking up on the comments that we all heard from you back in the spring. You know, the site plan remains largely similar to where we were, but there are a number of key changes that came out of our discussion in the spring that we wanted to bring to your attention. I think, first of all, thinking about Calle Real specifically as a street, a couple of key moves there. One, there's a dedicated bus pullout and bus shelter at that location, right in the middle of the plan. I'll point to you. You may also recall this is where, at a time, there was externalized trash pickup, and that's been eliminated from this frontage and now accessed over on the sort of creek-facing side. In order to kind of liberate the Calle Real frontage, ensure that we maximize the landscape along there, and create a better multi-use path. To that point, the other key thing that happened along Calle Real and working with the city, there was encouragement to actually move the curb out to an extension, and so to an extent. So now we actually have a 12-foot multi-use path that's running all the way along the Calle Real frontage, and that'll connect to what's happening along the creek, and I'll touch on that in a moment. The third thing of note along this frontage was adding a dog amenity over here at the corner and allowing that to be out at the perimeter and allow access to that from the street. I think the second piece of the plan that we wanted to talk about was what's happening along Arroyo Burro Creek. We have always had a access road that runs along this side of the project, but part of what we've worked closely with the city to do is they've allowed us, as has the fire department, to make that road 20 feet wide rather than 26. That allows us to grow the buffer to the creek and create additional habitat along that edge, as well as another 12-foot multi-use path for both pedestrians and cyclists, with the ambition of eventually being able to allow a connection further in the future and sort of have that be expanded in due course. So we're excited about this because it creates that connectivity and it begins to support some of the circulation goals, but it also creates what doesn't exist now, which is access to the creek and access to that landscape. There's still a fence, but if you're familiar with that, right now it's essentially a drive butting up against the fence, and it's not the type of place you go and spend any time. So this will come with benches and seating and some lighting as well, so that this becomes an asset for the community as we go. I think, just checking my notes here, I think the other key piece that we wanted to talk about, the question of publicly accessible space came up. And so I mentioned the dog amenity along Calle Real. I've mentioned that now the multi-use path along the creek. The other piece is an expanded plaza piece that we're doing here as well to expand the existing La Cumbre Plaza Mall. In total, all three of those add up to just shy of about half an acre of publicly accessible space. Just to stick on the sort of creek edge again, This is the existing fence through here, expanding the landscape, getting that multi-use path, seating, tree canopy, et cetera. There was a question or a comment, I believe, that was made when we were here about moving the road as far away from the building as possible. I think collectively our attitude is we'd rather actually have that road snugger to the building, create a bigger public asset against the creek and grow that habitat conceptually as a strategy. So, sorry to go backwards real quick. I'm trying to make heads or tails of what we're doing here. There was comments made about, really leveraging the mobility element, and so these aren't particularly exciting diagrams, but the two on the left, one reinforcing bike circulation effectively along 3 sides of the project at this point in time, leveraging those multi-use paths on Caireal and along the creek, and then there's an 8-foot wide sidewalk that runs along South Lacumbre. And then the turquoise diagram in the bottom left, this idea of sort of heightened pedestrian connectivity, not only at the perimeter and through the primary amenity spaces of the project, but ensuring that each of the internal courtyards are also linked to this broader circulation system as we go. There was a couple of comments that I enjoyed, which talked about it not having any personality, the landscape, and recognizing that the design at that time was a little bit more undercooked. And so I wanted to just spend just a couple minutes talking about what we're aspiring to do. I think we are interested in creating a high quality, sort of very material-based and detail-based environment. So leveraging landscape in particular, but really looking at how we create a sense of intimacy, what I would consider, a part of the Santa Barbara vernacular in particular, and really leveraging that kind of immersive garden experience. And so with that, again, thinking about materiality in terms of how that applies to all the different aspects of the project. What that, I'm going to jump ahead to courtyards. So what that allows us to do is create a series of highly appointed courtyards that have a variety of different experiences throughout all of them. So they're connected courtyards, but they're highly animated. The entry plaza, it's parking, but it's also about almost a hospitality approach to arriving to the project and really having something that celebrates landscape and arriving. And then that leads into our primary amenity space for the neighborhood. In fact, we're sort of deeming it a neighborhood commons. So it has everything from a set of terraced lawn terraces that step down with the grade, a pool area, a sand volleyball court, outdoor seating areas and gathering areas. We've identified an area for kids' play, which is another one of the comments that you all had brought up, making sure that there's accommodation of that in this space as well. And then on top of that, the other courtyards, we see them as really the living rooms of the community. And so beyond your units, beyond your balcony, being able to come out here and socialize with friends and ensuring that each of those is highly appointed, great furniture setting, great landscape setting, but they become these interesting rooms that are all connected, as I mentioned, through the building. I think the last thing I just wanted to touch on, and apologize for jumping way ahead, was one of landscape and massing that was raised, and I think there was comments, and RC will speak to building scale and whatnot, but I think the comment was made about ensuring that landscape has layers and has massing, and I think that's something that we've tried really diligently to do, is one, to leverage trees and kind of the palette of trees that are approved here in the city to ensure that this is a well-canopied neighborhood, if you will, around all of the edges. And then equally, thinking about communities of planting and how they're differentiated between creek frontage or street frontage or courtyard spaces, and ensuring that with that we have a range of plant material that offers sort of visual interest, it offers fragrance, it offers massing, that this should really celebrate that garden vernacular that Santa Barbara champions in all of their work. So those are the key landscape items I wanted to address, and I'm going to swap seats with RC here.
Alrighty. Go all the way up to the top here. RC Alley with AO. Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much. Let me go up to the beginning here. Sorry. How did you get to the other plans? There we go. Okay, there we go. So I need to be on slide 8. Okay. Okay. All right. RC Alley with AO. Again, I wanted to kind of walk you through where we ended up, but I thought it would be helpful to summarize a few of the comments I heard from last time, because there were some very, very relevant comments that very much shaped what we've done to the project. This is significantly different than what we presented before in terms of the elevation character. And I'll just read a couple of them. The building should be bold, simple, and horizontal. Should look at radically simplifying the elevations and try to get a more horizontal expression opposed to vertical. Simplify areas of repetitive elements that can read as one horizontal statement. Differences in fenestration should be from floor to floor with simple repetitive elements, like a two-story row of repeating arches down to the first and second floor. Consider square openings, repetitive square openings, and rare arches where appropriate and scaled correctly. The three-story arches, and this is on one of the other elevations, do not work. There were many comments about that. There were comments about the entryway on La Cumbre. And again, those were kind of the real high level. I can talk about any level of details. I've kind of put them into a summary. This is along La Cumbre. And this is a bird's eye view of the entrance to the right. Our building, four-story building on the left, a smaller building, and then looking down the entryway as Scott just discussed. What we've done now is we have flanked the entrance with two tower elements on the buildings you can see on the right and the left, with columns right when you drive in as well. Again, we've simplified the tower elevations, the towers and the scale of the towers over what they were previously. Make sure I'm getting my comments here. Again, this is a view from the road, same view. You can see we've really calmed the elevations down, and that was one of the big comments. We had very articulated elevations before. We had protruded cantilevered balconies and whole elements that protrude out from the building. And again, the general consensus was the building, it was too complicated. There was too much going on. This is looking back La Cumbre into our entrance, and you can see our leasing building beyond, and I'll show you that in a minute. Again, the two tower elements flanking the entry. This is further down into the court, and you can see our main looking back at the lobby, and to the right would be La Cumbre. This is further down the street. This is down Calle Real and towards the bottom of the site. And I'll show you an elevation in a few minutes that shows you how the building kind of steps down and follows the topography, significantly follows it and steps down along Calle Real. This is along Arroyo Burro Creek. Looking back to the left would be Calle Real. This is looking across the parking field, and you can see our building that faces the Greens Paseo area in the middle. And you can see how it compares to the left massing is the existing retail building. And this would be looking from Arroyo Burro Creek, and these are the retail buildings in front of our building. This is the massing of the retail building. It's hard to understand without an explanation. Sorry, I'll go through a couple here. Let it catch up. These are the building elevations, and I can zoom in to them if you would like. I also prepared some comparative exhibits of what the project previously was presented to you look like, but they're not included in this, but I have those available if you would like to see those as well. So I'm going to try to zoom in on these because, man, are they small. Still small.
And through the chair to the applicant team, the laptop screen is also touchscreen, so you can pinch and zoom like your smartphone, yeah.
Uh-oh, thank you. That's good. Thank you very much. I wish I had known that. Not in that one.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's limited with the full screen mode, so
Okay.
wish it was smarter.
So this is along Calle Real, and I'm going to walk kind of down Calle Real because this was the side that received the most comments. I'd say 80% of the comments were around this edge because it's so visible. So what we've done is we've really reordered how the building works. At the left is at the corner, and it's actually down a little bit below grade, but if you can tell, you can see kind of the tops of the arches, which you would see as you were driving down the street. And you can see how we've paired the windows. This is the back of the corridor, and we previously had made it kind of look like the front of a building, and it was noted it's really not the front of a building, it's a corridor. We have no units facing this direction. So we had a little more latitude to really work with the openings, which we've done. It's interesting, when I was here last time, I looked at all these wonderful exhibits you have on the wall here. Very significant exhibits of large-scale buildings, that one and that one. And they were actually very interesting and relevant to what we're doing because of the scale of this project. We received many comments about the parking structure, which is in the center of the building, and it had three-story large, bulky archways. We have now we've modified it, two-story arch colonnade, smaller openings above that, and then progressively smaller split openings above that. We've also scaled the towers down to be more appropriate. And here you can see on the left, or my right, sorry, how we've stepped the building down as well to follow the topography. And so we're very much following the existing topography all the way around the building. And to the right is the tower element that denotes the entry to Arroyo Creek, that section of the building. This is really our center area here when you drive in off of La Cumbre. And again, we've calmed the building down. We have, again, base arch elements. We have really a main lobby area that you drive in, you enter from a pedestrian standpoint, a ceremonial lobby entrance. And the building, again, follows the topography down. We've simplified the roof lines and really tried to calm the building down significantly from what it was previously. All righty, let's see. These were just blow-ups, but I was able to blow them up on the screen, so you were able to see them. And this is the elevation. This is along Arroyo Burro Creek. And there's a couple of things we put in here just so you can really see them. The blue denotes the existing grade in that area because the site has quite a bit of man-made topography on it, especially in this area from when it was graded for the existing Sears building. And we're bringing our building down to grade because it's significantly up above the adjacent grade now. Again, simple roof forms, simplified the building. We are staying within the height limitations. We punctuated the end with the tower element, a very simple tower element. And just materials and colors. I wanted to show you this. And this is our leasing office. And it's very deliberately different. We were also encouraged, as one of our comments was, everything doesn't have to match. It should be different to have the feeling of a community. And this is something that means a lot to the site. We're trying to pay homage to what was originally on the site, which was a dairy. And this is when you drive in off of La Cumbre, this is directly to the left, and we intentionally wanted it to be a statement piece. And I think that's it. Again, I do have comparative exhibits if you would like to see those, if that would be helpful to you.
Okay, thank you. We will open up public comment for item 2.
Thank you, Chair Anderson. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, we do have public comment that wants to be made. I have a slip from Stephen Bush. If you could please approach the podium, you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon. I assume you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Bush, and I am very against this kind of a project in Santa Barbara. I highly recommend that the board require the story poles. Mock-ups in the business that I was in were critical. And when we redid our house, I did all kinds of mock-ups for my wife to see what it looked like, because she couldn't visualize it. And I think you'll get a lot more public comments when people see story poles of a four-story building that close to the streets that are there. I think that that's probably the biggest thing that I had to say. I understand this is preliminary in what we're doing, and I will back off after that and just say, I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I do not have any additional slips for anyone who would like to make public comment. If you wish to, please fill one out and bring it to me. Okay, I see no one else moving to do so, so we will turn our attention to virtual comment, and I do have a hand for Mr. Stephen Johnson. Mr. Johnson, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Mr. Johnson, please
Thank you for this
proceed.
opportunity. ABR guidelines, goal C, ensure development consistent with the policies of the general plan. For this project, the moderate income housing allocation is 131 units. 0 are proposed other than lottery units. Consider the current housing element cycle. How many non-lottery moderate income units have been built or proposed in this cycle? 0. The base density for this project is 595 units, but only 443 are proposed. This disparity is a glaring defect. Not enough units, but those units are spacious. Average unit size, 850 square feet, very high for a priority overlay project. The priority overlay zones are the only zones where there's a prayer of having moderate income units produced. The average size, consistent with the general plan, could be reduced if the one-bedroom units were split to create studios, half with parking, half without. The car-free studios would be moderate income by design. Approving the current design will perpetuate the appalling production of moderate income housing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I do not see any additional hands raised for virtual public comment. Okay. Oh, now we do have one. It keeps going and disappearing. Well, we'll move on. I think, Mr. Sweeney, if you wish to, please raise your hand. Okay. At this time, we will close. There he is. Let's give him a chance to speak. Mr. Sweeney. Oh, it disappeared again. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we will move on to written correspondence. We did receive written correspondence from a Mr. Brian Miller and also Mr. Stephen Johnson. And at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
Okay, we will close public comment, and if for some reason he comes back, maybe we can try to reopen if we need to. Okay, let's go to questions from the board. Vice Chair Whalen, would you like to begin with questions?
Sure. I'd first like to, in the interest of Brown Act, Board Member 6 did email me with the news that he wouldn't attend, and he stated a couple of issues that he thought were important that I will reiterate. So with that, let's see, I wanted to start with the previous image you showed of the community building. Could you go back to that image? Was there any historical reference to this gambrel roof style that relates to the dairy?
Would you like me to answer that? Yes.
Sure.
Sure. I don't think we found a plethora of information with respect to the past land use of this property. I think that we know that it once was a dairy, and this is more of an interpretation of what it might have been. But in terms of photographic evidence, I don't think we cultivated too much.
It's not too different than Santa Barbara, which is an invented sort of place anyways. In the staff report here or on the agenda, it lists Riviera dairy products. Are there any actual dairy products involved with this?
No, that's
That's just a title.
that's
just
the name of a limited partnership. That's
All right.
again hearkening back to the history of it all, I guess.
All right, and Mr. Baker, on the landscape plan, it talks about in the entry plaza, it lists a porte-cochere. There's really not, there's no structure there, right?
No.
No, so that's kind of a misnomer. It's listed in the index as a porte-cochere.
If you limit it to the idea of a physical structure, I think we were aspiring to more of the hospitality notion of it, the sort of in the spirit of arriving at.
All right.
Yeah.
I always picture some sort of covered landing place. All right. Let's see. And could you go to your site plan and outline, I know it's a private residence and there are public realms. What I'm not clear about is where's the fence line and where are the access points around the site? The parking garages is pretty intuitive. I can figure that out. I can't really figure out where they are in that central plaza that you call. Where does it become public and where is it private?
Oh, go back to. Get that too.
Yeah, that's fine to show it me.
So if I understood, are you talking about in the main throat here or just in
All
general?
around the development, where is a fence line and gates that would delineate public versus private?
Presently, there are no gates through here at all that would allow limited access through here. We have a fence around the pool area by code. There's a fence that effectively runs along the edge of the parking so as not to access into the pool area, amenity area from the parking lot. And that fence line would wrap around and define the end of the residential amenity, leaving that new plaza space, that expanded plaza space that I mentioned. Additionally, there's another gate at this location here, but there are no gates or anything of the sort along this edge.
Very good. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Pardon the interruption, Board Member Whalen, but we did get public comment. Another person raised their hand on Zoom, and we were wondering if we could interrupt the questions to.
Is it Mr. Sweeney?
Oh,
good.
Yes, it is Mr. Sweeney. Chair Anderson?
Yes, we can reopen public comment.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Mr. Sweeney? I think he's having technical difficulties.
Maybe I should try flashing the instructions up on the screen one more time.
Yeah.
Ground control.
This is Mr. Johnson. Perhaps you're inadvertently connecting to me.
Oh, did you unmute him instead?
Mr. Sweeney? Can't get him.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can read the instructions on the screen that we have. Well,
All right. I think at this time, Mr. Sweeney, if you have a comment, please submit it via email. We tried.
Okay. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
We'll close public comment again. Go back to Vice Chair Whalen.
Thank you. Could you describe the purpose of the towers? Is it an elevator override or some useful thing, or is it just wingding?
Well, I would not call it wingding. I would call it architectural intent to denote entry to the project at the main drive entry.
No, all of the towers throughout. Each one of them denotates an entry point?
The two at the main entrance.
Right.
Those denote entry. There's one down at the Arroyo Burro Creek side. Actually, let me just do it right here. I'll just show it to you. There's one right. There's two towers here. There's one
Right.
here. There's one here. There is one here, and there's one here to denote the edges of the building. We put those are architectural intent.
So they don't really describe entry points, they're delineating edges of the structure?
Edges of the structure.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. Oh, have there been any size and massing changes significantly? It looks like the same site plan that we saw before. There was concerns about the massing. Has that changed at all?
It is not. All we've done on it is we have defined, we've worked with the planning department to define the grade plane because of the hole where the Sears is, but that doesn't really affect the massing. It does not. And the site plan is primarily very similar to what you saw before.
And so my last question is very specific. At that one building in the commercial building that's left in the shopping center, it's a mere 10 to 15 feet from the proposed apartment buildings. What's the grade change that's going on in there? Specifically, is my apartment looking right into the wall or the roof of that building?
I'm gonna zoom in right here.
Exactly.
So this is the area you're talking about. We have moved the building a little bit away from it. It's a little bit further than it was. This building, right there, that unit right there faces out, so it does not face the building.
How about the grade changes between the two?
They're basically level. So at this unit right here, I'll zoom inside because I can't really circle it.
Yeah.
The first two floors of that unit, of those units, are affected by that building. Above that, you're above the parapet line.
Very good. That's very clear. Thank you. I think those are all my questions for now. Thank you, Chair Anderson.
Board Member Black.
Thank you. My question has to do with architectural style. I think everyone here knows, and you included, I'm sure, that Santa Barbara is pretty unique when it comes to architectural style, Spanish colonial revival in particular. And could you sort of talk briefly about what your understanding of what is Santa Barbara architecturally and what elements that are made up of that style, and then how you might have incorporated that into your design?
I would say we're very cognizant of what happens in Santa Barbara. It is a building of this scale. It's very hard to translate the exact details of a Santa Barbara style project, either a Spanish colonial revival or Mediterranean style. I would say we have incorporated arch elements in a simpler format than many of the projects. We have incorporated roof details. I'm looking at my elevation, and I think I'd actually rather pull it up and talk about it. So hold on. So you can see at the eave line, can you hear me okay? Eave line, we have dentals, we have tile roofs, pitch tile roofs. We have really tried to, in terms of the total building massing with a base, a body, and a cap. In terms of pairing windows, we have a lot of the tile inlay elements. So I'd say, it's a contemporary version of it applied to a larger building. It's not a traditional Santa Barbara style.
It's not.
It's not.
Yeah. So I'm looking specifically at these very sort of tall vertical openings, which I see throughout. And I guess my question is would that be considered traditional approach to architectural design in Santa Barbara? I question that, so that's why I bring it up. But as you say, it's not a specific representation of Santa Barbara style. You have inspiration from it.
It's inspired and it's a contemporary version.
I understand. I have a question about landscape architecture then. So my concern about landscape is, are you comfortable with the amount of landscape buffer you have around the sort of the perimeter, because that's where all that verticality is going to be read from the, Calle Real and along the creek and what have you. Are you comfortable with how much space you have relative between the building face and, say, the road or the sidewalks, getting enough verticality, massing-wise?
Absolutely. I mean, in many cases, we're at 30 feet of planting area there.
You are?
Yeah.
For those, what do you have along La Cumbre, for instance, or Calle Real, rather?
It varies because of but in some cases it's 20 feet, in some cases it's, as much as 30 or 40. So it does vary across there. But we're confident in getting massing. I think the flip side of it too is, at a public interface, how deep is that kind of no man's land, and do you run the risk of attractive nuisance? So I think we're very cognizant of right-sizing that.
Okay. Do you happen to know off the top the amount of landscape area between the building and along La Cumbre Creek? You've got
Arroyo Burro Creek?
Arroyo Burro, sorry. You have the building, you have landscape, then you have the road, and then you have that one section. I was just curious how much space that actually is.
So it's hard to sort of pull this trick here. So to put it in perspective, that multi-use path is about 12 feet wide.
Got it.
So, in some cases, we're maybe in the 10 range. In other cases, it's wider than that.
I can see that,
along that edge. So, oops, sorry. But, on average, I would submit that it's somewhere between 10 and maybe 16 feet typically.
Right. Plus you have the massing in the planted median there.
Right. I think that's the important thing. As I mentioned, there was a comment, I forget who had made the comment about, biasing the road towards the creek to maximize that zone. I think we are kind of, call me socialist, but expanding the creek edge for more people and creating a bigger environment rather than favoring the few that live along that edge is sort of our priority, to try and to create those layers as well. So we have the building, a landscape zone, the 20-foot drive, a 4-foot parkway, the 12-foot multi-use path, and an additional 4 to 6 feet for landscape against the fence.
Okay, great. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Board Member Noon?
Just
Yeah, I think,
Sure.
Sorry, one second.
No problem.
I think let's get through our questions and then we can do public comment. Is that okay?
Absolutely. It's
Okay.
up to your discretion.
Great.
Thank you, Chair Anderson.
Board Member Noon?
Just a quick one. I think there was a comment mentioned last time about just the long expansiveness of the corridors. Was that, I don't remember you guys specifically addressing that in your presentation today.
So we have not modified them. We do actually have, and I can show it to you here. So I'm just going to move over here. This is a good place to. So we do have some long corridors. That's kind of part of what some of these buildings are about, but we have been able to offset within there to provide some lobby areas, some gathering areas, and we have broken down other than along the parking structure. Well, I guess I should also say also along Calle Real, which backs to the freeway. So we have inserted some areas, but it's not dramatically different than what you saw before.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe to touch back on that, the path along the creek, you see that being used by just public in general as access from, southern part of the site to northern part? Where are those people coming from and where are they going?
It was actually something that was made deemed quite important by planning, and specifically wanting to ensure that we were continuing to build in pieces of this kind of green highway strategy. And so we're putting in the piece that we can control, the project that's at the other end of the mall doing their piece. There's an ambition to connect those two, but there's some mall function and parking and fire that all has to be addressed. That orange arrow that's there represents future connection. But I think it's about building a broader network that links State Street down to Calle Real, if not today, certainly in the future.
Also, if I might add, correct me if I'm wrong, Patsy, but I think that the general plan addresses the idea of getting pedestrians off the street. And that was a requirement going in to essentially create an off-site pedestrian path with the expectation that it'll go all the way up to State Street one day.
Okay, thank you.
Board Member Sofrin?
How do you guys feel about the planning desire to have that sort of walking path there along the creek? Because I'm just sort of, when I look at this, I would think I'd be apprehensive wanting to live near that with the potential of like homeless encampments forming, especially with like such large green space. I mean, it's not like there's much to look at across the creek other than the back of the dealerships, right?
Quite honestly, before we were informed by planning that it would be a requirement, we proposed it. I had that transposed for a minute. And the reason we felt that was necessary or a good thing was to have, an edge condition that looked at an amenity that might be improved in the future vis-a-vis the creek. Right now, it's pretty degraded, but parts of the city's creeks have been restored, and maybe one day that's a much more verdant area to look at, and we thought it was a good element to add to the project, notwithstanding potential concerns there.
But I'll also add, though, that without the multi-use path, that at least brings people to it. There's still going to be a road there that accesses the mall and provides fire access. A road with no other footfall, double down on your concern. So I think bringing people to it, I think, is quite important. And I think the other part of it is ensuring that we are uncovering kind of natural elements like this within the city and providing broader access, I think, is important long-term. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like when I look at sort of this bird's eye view, this site plan, there's some nice articulation on a lot of what you develop, but then, Calle Rio kind of looks like a billboard. Do you guys have any thoughts or comments on why that's so? And I understand that it's adjacent to the highway, but it's the part that most of the public, I think, is going to see.
I'm going to switch. I'm just going to roll over here. There we go. Do musical chairs. I'm going to go back to the elevations, if that's okay, and really talk about them, because we've spent a lot of time on this edge, and I think it warrants more than the 2-minute discussion that I gave you, 2-minute presentation I gave you when we talked about it. Close. I really want to show the elevations, but I think I'll start with this. So we have worked very hard to articulate the building, and you can see this is, to the right is the entrance to the Royal Creek roadway that we just discussed. And what we've done is we've done some very strategic breaks in the building. So you can see this is the lower building. It's a lower pad than the rest of the project. And I truly think that we've done a really good job of articulating the building, because we don't want it to look like a billboard. We want it to look, it has to look inviting. This is a gateway entrance to your city, and we recognize that. which is why we have an articulated roof line. I'm going to see if I can find my other, let's see, sorry. I want to find the elevations. All right, 37, here we go. Actually, you know what? I think the next one's better. So this is the edge that's closest to La Cumbre. So up on the upper left. And you can see, again, we do have tower elements. We have done quite a bit in terms of pairing the windows and really applying a vocabulary to the building of a base body and a top. You can see we've broken the roof line. We have various opening types along here. And then, again, the parking structure, which, believe it or not, was, I wish I could, I don't know if you remember what it looked like before, but it was not wonderful. And we've worked very hard, again, to make it feel like there's three really very separate pieces. There's the upper level piece, the upper piece, which is here, punctuated then by the parking structure piece, which then steps down, as you can see, kind of right in the middle of the image, and then the lower body, the lower base piece. And again, three separate pieces. So we think we've done a very good job of articulating that edge.
Am I right where I look at what you've got in the center of the screen in that first story? You go actually a little bit more to the right.
Oh, right here?
Yeah, right there. We've got two different materials. Am I seeing that right?
We have,
or is that
it's different colors right now. Is that right?
Gotcha. So we've got the stucco and then just a different color.
Yes,
stucco?
a different color base,
Okay.
a different base color, yes.
Okay. Okay. That's
Yes, and there were also, I guess I should talk about really kind of the reason that we treated it this way, because really along the freeway edge, we're not only discouraged from, but we're really not allowed to have any units face that way because of the diesel particulates and all of the environmental issues associated with the freeway.
okay. Great. That's all I've got for questions. Thank you.
Board Member Anderson?
Can you flip to the site plan, please? Okay.
It's this one.
So did you consider connecting the courtyards with some sort of public access all the way through?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay. Why?
Having the public walk through the buildings, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I remember that was a comment
I remember.
I had last time, and I was just
I remember
curious.
I remember very clearly you called it a network building, and I had never
Yeah.
heard that term before. I mean, realistically, this is it's a project where you will have residents that live there, and generally you don't want the public walking through your community.
So is a site safety security kind of thing?
Safety and security standpoint, yes. Walking through we really would not want, again, the public to walk through the project.
Okay, and then in the bottom right-hand corner where the Arroyo meets Cairao, so based on that rendering we saw of that view, is that going to be some kind of a public park, or what's going on there at 15? Or because it looked like from the rendering it's just a field of bushes or something.
The shrub mass that you saw was actually up against the building itself on the rendering. Scott, you want to talk about this?
I think at this point, conceptually, it's an expansion of the creek habitat. So field of bushes is another way to put that. But I think it is about expanding the green network and creating urban habitat, urban ecology, and creating a separated multi-use path that connects through that. Does that open up in the future as we go into more detailed design? Potentially, but I think part of this is there's an aspect of trying to get immersion into nature. And I think in an area like this, which is really defined by massive parking lots. We're trying to create that idea of escape and getting into nature again.
Okay, and then looking at the actual planning of the units and the circulation, typically in courtyard schemes, I see this circulation wrapping the courtyard so you access, so the hallway wraps the courtyard as a kind of colonnade around. Is there a reason why you had it looks like the bathroom core is now coming down into the courtyards, or?
No, those are all the balconies of the unit. So basically, the way that this building works is, if you can see right in the center of this building mass, there's a central loaded corridor. And so basically, you go from the parking structure, I'll pull it up here, parking structure into the central loaded corridor, and that then leads you down to the entry of the unit. So the entry door of the unit, that's the bathroom. I'll kind of zoom in as best I can here. I can show you in greater detail if you'd like. Generally, the bathroom, the kitchen chorus are closest to the corridor, and the outer, so there's a balcony and outer windows that face into the courtyards and to the exterior of the building.
That makes sense. So pixelated here. But so in terms of public outdoor space, because clearly they have the courtyards, but there's also these slots, right? So I want to talk about the vertical slots. Where in the plan, maybe you have to flip to the upper levels for the vertical slots. Where is that occurring? That's
on the elevations.
On the exterior
Those
facing.
generally are occurring where we have, so basically the way this building works there is our units that stack directly above the other units, the same unit plan. So what would happen in that case is where we have some of our balconies, for instance, those would be those slots. And I can really, actually, let me just show you that real quick. Well, apparently not. Sorry to hear about him, but. I'm just waiting for it to regenerate. Oh, there it is. Hold on, it's there. Sorry. Okay, so this is the area you're talking about. So
Yeah.
what generally occurs is, again, because there's the same unit stacks above itself, where this slot is occurring, is those are the balconies for the units. So there's a ground floor patio with an enlarged patio deck, and upper floor balconies, and we have chosen to articulate those into that slot or that larger opening.
Okay. And then since we're looking at this image, can you zoom out a little bit? Yeah, and then kind of scroll up a little bit. So in terms of the roof treatment, the eave, it looks like there's two different details on one where there's a cornice molding meeting the underside of a brown soffit, and the other where there's exposed rafters. Is that just some kind of, is that actually how it is? There's different.
That is how it is. There are different elements. We chose to keep the building body a fairly light color palette, and so we're trying to differentiate certain areas. So you can see in this building mass, we have a base, and then we've basically paired the windows together. We have, in terms of visual texture, tile elements inserted in between the windows, between the sills and the heads, and we've articulated this in more of a vertical manner. And we've also changed the roof, the eave details.
So it's an attempt to kind of have a subtle difference in the
Add some
identity.
differences in the building.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, and then my last question is just in terms of the comments last time about the horizontal expression of the elevation, do you feel this new iteration is responding to that, or how is that responding to that?
I do, and it's really that was really in, I'm going to try to find that long elevation again. That was page 37 and 38. Oh, darn close. Okay. Actually, right here. Okay. So I think we have very much done that on this edge, and I don't know if you remember before, the building was highly animated on this edge previously. we had many vertical elements that protruded from the building, and it gave a very, it was punctuated with many vertical elements in an attempt to break the building mass down. We have now, if you start to look, you start to see, it's kind of hard to see the base element here, but you see the base. We have, again, horizontal pairings, and then we have indeed stacked the windows and gone from larger windows at the lower floors to smaller, more articulated in a more traditional manner on the upper floor. So I believe that we've done a good job of calming the building down. Frankly, there was a lot going on with it the first time we were here, and that was one of the big things we did is we stepped back. We heard what you guys said, I think, and I believe we've done a very good job of calming the project down.
Okay. Can you, before we move on, can you zoom in on those leveled items so we can see the relative heights if you pan to the left? Because these are very small and it's hard to get a sense of the human scale. Oh, there we go. There's a runner. There we go.
And this guy's kind of short.
Oh. Okay.
But just for scale, those windows are approximately 6 feet tall.
Okay, I have some follow-up questions. We haven't spoke anything about the second building, I guess you could say, along, is it La Cumbra?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? Because I think one of our questions was, could we study lowering that from 4 stories or stepping that one back or relocating some of the units somewhere else? And it seems like it is still 4-story, and this is where I would say a lot of the pedestrians will engage with the building. And so can you kind of walk us through what you did here?
So we did change the massing of this building, and again, I wish I had my exhibits that showed you what we had and what we have now. It was much more animated than it is now. It is 4 stories, but I will tell you, let me see if I can get the other edge. It's hard for me to get down here. We have stepped the building down because basically the site goes from high and it really falls down. Jose, is it about 6 or 8 feet?
Yes.
Do you have a section through the street in that building to tell us where in relationship your first floor is based on the pedestrian level?
I do not believe we have a section that shows that. But they're relatively at the same level. We just follow the topography of the road down.
Okay. And then there was an image, and maybe you described it. You said it was another building in front that we were seeing, one of your renderings. It was like the white massing that was like buildings. Can you tell me again where you were looking from?
That was looking from.
Like on the other side?
On the creek side,
Got it.
looking at the
Okay.
back of the retail buildings that will remain.
Okay, so then do you have a section, detail, or image of the fence that's between the parking and your new pool area and what that edge is gonna look like?
I have a section, but we haven't designed the fence at this point in time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, and then at the top, so the parking garage, does it open up to the sky? Like the top level's open to the sky, and those are
Yes.
those arches
Yes,
that
it
you see
does.
through? Okay.
Yes.
And then was there any study to step the 4th floor back and maybe push the height into the inner courtyard or into the,
There was not, because that would have exceeded our allowable building height. So we did not do that.
right? Okay. Okay. Okay, let's open up public comment again, and then we can come back to any follow-up questions from the board.
We have Mr. Fred Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney, you will have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I know that you went through college like I went through college, and I had to sit through in front of a bunch of jurors, and they made some nasty comments. So please don't feel that I'm bemusing you, but folks, you need to get a designer who understands Santa Barbara architecture to be part of your team. I don't know if you're familiar with the buildings that are at the intersection at the four-level interchange in downtown Los Angeles. Those housing structures, one in fact caught on fire and had to be rebuilt. But they look exactly like this. They're just big rectangles that have been decorated. You can go back, if you could go back to your elevation you had up there a second ago, most of my comments are to that elevation. First of all, if you understood anything about dairy farms on this coast, from Cambria to Santa Barbara, there were hundreds of dairy farms that lined this coast. That's how Los Angeles got its milk for many, many years. And those dairy farms, the dairy parlors were low-slung buildings. There's still examples of them. If you go up to Lompoc or if you go to Buellton along Highway 101, you'll see one today. They don't look anything like a Midwest dairy barn. That is your solution right there. The guard towers that you have on these buildings are just awful. You don't understand the scale of Santa Barbara Andalusian architecture. If you haven't been to Andalusia in Spain, then you don't understand how Santa Barbara architecture works. And you don't understand what a paseo is. The gentleman was trying to tell you what a paseo is. You don't understand that. You don't understand the scale. You don't understand how windows are shaped. You don't understand how the lights are divided. They're not divided like you're showing that. That's like you do in Pasadena or in Southgate or in Santa Ana, but not here in Santa Barbara. You need to hire someone that can auxiliate your team to understand how to design Santa Barbara architecture. And there are several well-qualified individuals in this city that could do that. And if you don't, you're going to be at this for a very, very long time.
Great, thank you. Okay, so let's come back to the board. Oh, any other public comments?
Yes, Chair Anderson.
Hold on. Any other public comments?
At this time, I see no further hands raised, so at that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Anderson.
Okay, we will close public comment for the third time. Okay, let's do some follow-up questions.
Yes, Chair Anderson, I had a question for Mr. Eady. Could you make the case for waiving the story poles?
I think essentially the justification we gave Patsy was that the general plan established and the code, the zoning code established a height limit based on a lot of vetting at the time of 45 feet. And that whatever was done back then to establish that height limit is something we are comporting with. We're completely within that height limit. So we thought, is this really necessary? It's an extensive and expensive thing to do on a very large 10-acre site, which would, yes, it would show the 4 stories, but that's what's permitted by code. So that's what we did, is just basically predicate our request based on that.
Thank you. That's my only question, Chair.
You guys have some follow-up? Yes?
Yeah. I was just a little confused. Can you help me understand when Chair Anderson asked you about pushing in the 4th floor, you said that would make your project not be height compliant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I respond?
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
why I'm
we're
asking.
questions,
Okay,
yeah.
So the question, I believe, was asked, can we lower the edges by a story and move those units back inward to the project, which would then make
Yes.
the project taller in the middle of the project?
Okay.
And so, no, we cannot do that.
Okay.
Well, you can exceed the height limit, correct? And ask for an exception? Or you're saying you just can't exceed it at all?
Our goal is to not exceed it and not ask for that exception or variance.
Okay.
And there's been no other thought, though, about even still just pulling back that 4th story anyways to reduce maybe some square footage to create a little bit?
We have not had that discussion.
Okay. And then, can I just see the original rendering that you came at that was on page 38?
You can type it in, too.
Oh, okay. I use a very different program than this, so that's why. That one? Nope, 38, okay. 38. Haven't got it yet. There you go.
Teachable moments, R.C.
Man,
Learn a new skill.
I have to get my
And
kids
then-
over here.
I think, do,
Yeah, it's in the top tab on the far right.
Pre-case plan.
Yeah, if you'd like to look at the, yeah.
So that was the original rendering at the drive entrance. Is that the one you wanted to see?
is that the one that was on 38? There's a few.
Hold on. No, 38 was this one. Hold on. I don't know if this is a complete,
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm not sure this is complete because we had another long elevation that was along,
That might have just
That's-
been the
that's-
presentation.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thanks for looking.
Was that your question? Oh, okay. Board Member Anderson, you have a question?
Yeah, was there any consideration, because looking at this, the former design, to variations in the roof height or expression in the new elevations? Because it looks like there has been some, it looks like you've held the datum of the highest exterior wall across the entire length of the elevation instead of having some sort of articulation in the roof forms. Right. So like
I'll use this right here. This is
Yeah,
probably a good example. I
The other
mean,
side though, wasn't
this one?
it? The inside elevation. Yeah.
Let me keep going here. Nope,
I think
nope,
that was
nope.
it.
Maybe right here. So, to answer your question, no, this is, we have kept the ridge line intact. Again, we have some height, we're staying within a certain height element envelope. We have protruded these elements, and unfortunately, you can't really, it's hard to tell, but this whole element here actually pops out. We have raised the plate, and so there is articulation in the roof line that you would experience. As you know, it's very hard to look at a straight elevation because you're never going to really see the building like this, not in reality.
But can you flip back to the prior render? Because it seemed like in the former iteration you had a little bit more. I'm curious, something was lost a little bit in the move to maybe try to make this more kind of quieter and horizontal. But there's more of these gables. It looks like. Is that
There were more of the gables, and this was a much more animated architectural vocabulary, and we walked away with what we thought was a good understanding and really a good solution to simplifying the building due to its size. And so that's what we've done. We have simplified it. We have removed the multiple gable end elements, and again, have tried to express the building more in a more horizontal manner.
all right?
I had two follow-up. Have you guys already located like transformers and you have that nailed out? Okay, and then on the building on La Cumbre, it looked like there was amenity space on the first floor. Is that correct?
Go back to my building plans here. $38, is that what it was?
Maybe zoom in there, yeah. Over on La Cumbre building.
Sorry. So we do not have amenity space on the La Cumbre building. Is that right, Jose? Is it right here?
Yeah, right in the
right
middle
there.
there.
Yeah.
Now, is that is important for that structure and it needs to be on the first floor? Can that be in the leasing building? Can that go to your top floor like a roof deck and reduce the appearance of mass? If you see where I'm going with
I
this?
do, I understand what you're asking, and I don't know the answer.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yes.
And then this is to staff, just confirming there's no other comments from Planning Commission that we should be aware of besides the importance of the pathway along the borough, or whatever it is.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I can bring them up real quick and just see what we have.
Any other questions while they?
And Chair Anderson, while he's bringing that up, one point of clarification. This project is not proposed as a density bonus project, so in order to increase the height over the 45-foot height limit, they would need to request a variance.
Okay, thank you.
Which they have not requested.
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, well, if there's no other questions while they're looking that up, maybe let's take a 2-minute recess and come back for comments. Does that work? Great. to order here if we can.
All right, we're going to be, yes, go ahead and take a seat back in front of the computer. We're calling this back into order. If you guys can please limit your conversations once again. Thank you. And per previous instruction from Chair Anderson, we do have the last Planning Commission comments. I'll show those on the screen briefly just for reference sake. And these were from April 3rd, 2025. I'll go ahead and just scroll through them, and then once you guys are done, just let me know.
And Chair Anderson, if you'd like, I can highlight
Yes, please.
some of the design-specific comments. The Planning Commission generally agreed with ABR comments. They also commented that open space courtyards, pathways, pool, and multi-use trail are appreciated, but that the project needs more public open space or public connectivity. They asked for a dedicated play area. The commission encourages architectural style variations and recommends the applicant explore moving the massing to the center, potentially away from Calle Real and the La Cumbre corner. They noted that the plan should include section views showing the surrounding area, including La Cumbre Road, Calle Real, and Highway 101. They asked the applicant to make the towers look more similar to the Santa Barbara Courthouse Tower. The applicant did provide some updated plans to Planning Commission, and they noted that many of the ABR comments had been addressed in those, but that massing, porosity, and access still needed to be addressed in that prior version. They commented, Commissioner Belke presented some examples from the city's objective design standards, which don't apply to this project, but were used as examples, and talked about specifically creation of blocks, and that there should be a breakup of the buildings into smaller spaces. The Planning Commission commented that general access and circulation in the area could be improved to increase connectivity with the Gardens on Hope, the movie theater, and other spaces in the larger surrounding area. And the commission also requested a dog, animal area, and play area per the open space element. And the commission commented that they appreciated the lawn space.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, any questions before we go into comments? All right, let's go into comments. Vice Chair Whalen, would you like to begin?
Well, I'm grateful to Mr. Sweeney for reminding all of us who went through architectural school how we would get sliced and diced during reviews, and I would try to keep this a more pleasant form. And next, I wanted to reiterate Member 6's comments. There seems to be some misunderstanding about horizontality and verticality. To my estimation, when I saw this plan, it was decidedly vertical, and that had to do with the recessed panels pairing the windows, giving it a verticality. That, in my mind, isn't a Santa Barbara style. Windows are separate, they are recessed, and that's another element. In general, they're punched openings. And I'm pleased to see you referring to those drawings. That my next point would be the colonnades are always of a greater height. It's like 1.3 of the upper floors. I didn't really see that on yours. But more importantly, those are arcades. And what I saw on your drawings were, it was like an arcade that had been filled in and losing that all-important sense. It'd be delightful if you could get colonnades going all the way around and that really muscular base supported by arches. I'm not sure that's in your program ability, though. But still, those arches being filled in, I think really misses the point of what a genuine Santa Barbara architecture is. I would appreciate, as many proponents do, seeing some inspiration images. The landscape brought some. I'd be more convinced about your authenticity if you demonstrated your understanding of Santa Barbara architecture by those inspiration photos. And while I'm on the subject of the landscape, you showed us these very fetching images of light dappled and water. What I see, though, and what I imagine, the courtyards are going to be like. It's 3 and 4 stories, and this movement of the sun is going to make the lower right-hand corner if in total shade. So I have grave reservations about how inviting these courtyards will really be, other than the elevations and the sort of lush planting schemes. In your narrative, you talk about enduring architectural character and architectural authenticity. I'm getting back to my previous comment about letting us know that you really understand what Santa Barbara is all about, because frankly, I was disappointed with this one, with this version. I actually regret losing that first one, and I'm a little bit mystified why it changed so much. What was it that you heard that we didn't like about that one? I don't recall that many comments about it. Its massing being too jumbled and we wanted more order. I just don't recall that, and I didn't see it in the minutes, but I'm getting off point as I usually do. I think I asked for a section through not only the site, Calle Real, but going down to 101. My contention is that this, as a gateway building to Santa Barbara, will be seen from Highway 101. I talked about the paired windows. Oh, yes. I'm reminded that one of the brilliant proponents of this style, Julia Morgan, who did the complex of buildings at Hearst Castle, well, she did a number of different buildings. There were warehouses, there were farm buildings, there was an egg building. Each one had a different character, and I would encourage you to rethink this gambrel roof for a community center, but being more in keeping with Santa Barbara style. It can look extremely different than the rest of the buildings, but still be within that character. And you'll see that as you study the city of different types of buildings have a different character, but the imagery is still shared throughout the Santa Barbara style. To my mind, what you've proposed today has more, yes, it has plaster and tile, railings, but it's more a modern and a contemporary take. I think Mr. Eady, you even outlined that. But to my mind, it's more of a 70s interpretation, 1970s interpretation of what Santa Barbara has been like the county services building, not to disparage our own buildings, but styles come and go. I don't think that the plan specifically respects the neighborhood compatibility on La Cumbre Road. The buildings across the street are all low-slung, one-story, and I would like to see the massing on those reduced. Even on the previous plan, the Calle Real building on the west end stepped down. It no longer does that. It now has a demarcating tower. So I don't feel, I can't make compatibility findings with the neighborhood on that western portion of the site, nor with the adjacent commercial building at the northeast corner because of that spacing. Let's say I would encourage you to study the top floor of the parking structure. Right now, it looks like sort of a wing wall. It could even be expressed as a lower element with just a parapet sculpture, just to bring that line down. I appreciate how you've broken up the roof lines. I would like to see the facades reflect that. Right now, they don't seem to do that. So your drawings and your design will have to convince me. It has a rather institutional character. We've lost our monitor, Sebastian. It has a rather institutional character. You did a really fine development on Upper State, what was it, Estancia, that really reads residential. I'm looking for that, more of that quality. This I couldn't identify as being an office space, a hospital, or a corporate building. So I'm looking for a more residential feel. And I think those are all of my points. Thank you, Chair.
Board Member Black?
I would have to agree with Mr. Whalen's comments. I know when I first started asking questions, I was asking about Santa Barbara architectural style, trying to understand what your understanding of it was, and I don't have really issues with the size, bulk, and scale of the project, although the comments that have been made relative to the smaller building here, I probably would agree with, but I think architecturally, the project sort of falls short, and it falls short in the context of what is Santa Barbara, frankly. It is, Santa Barbara's style is very unique, as you, I'm sure, know, and I just don't see evidence of that here, particularly as it relates to sort of the repeated vertical openings, which you just, in my mind, just don't see much of in a traditional Santa Barbara building. So I think there's some work to be done as far as style is concerned. Those are my comments.
Board Member Noon?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm going to have anything different to say than what's been said before. I agree with the comments. I'm apologizing. I'm going to be a little redundant, not to change or add to it, but simply to put an exclamation point on what was said. The attempt at the horizontality, I don't think was achieved. Again, with the vertical pieces, as Board Member Whalen said, that you've got those recessed. We would see more of just the window recess and a splay at the window, not that whole piece recessed. I think the site, the building layout and the site, again, those long corridors, those are, to me, from a livability standpoint, they're a concern. I think Board Member Anderson mentioned maybe a paseo could be added, or maybe it was a comment somewhere else. But just some breaking up of that, of the massing in the plan, not necessarily vertically, but or the height, but just in the plan. I think that would help the livability of the site. And the connection, I know the connection from north to south. I know that was something that you were encouraged to do. I don't see it as being as successful. Maybe for the residents themselves might use that. I don't see a real connection from the Calle Real. Like I said, where are they coming from? I don't see a lot of people coming from that, walkers coming from that southern side to get to the north. Maybe some cyclists, but it seems like, maybe within the property in the future development, maybe there's some movement there. So it seems like that could be maybe studied a little more, or is not as important as you're giving it. You're giving importance to it. I think I've had some other comments that I thought about that probably should be saved till later. As far as finishes and colors, but we'll get through this.
I think you should just say it all now.
Okay.
I really do.
My thought was, the colors could maybe a little warmer. It was a little cold. I think there was a lot of the landscaping photos. That was nice and attractive. Maybe I think Board Member Whalen said that it would be nice to see some of that inspiration for the architecture. What we've seen so far, just within the renderings, seemed a little cold. And then this was just maybe a personal thing. The sand finish that was called out. I don't know. Maybe I'd defer to the rest of the board members. But I'm sorry.
For the stucco?
Yeah, I think personally more appropriate would be a smooth trial finish. But you're the designer, so I'll let the board members weigh on that if they choose to. But that's it. Thanks.
Board Member Sofrin?
Yeah, could you pull up page 8 in your presentation? Thanks. Yeah, I agree with everything that had previously been said, and I think that when I see this, I really, and I appreciate all the effort you've put towards this. This really looks to me like a hotel in Orange County, and it doesn't fit here. So I don't think that there's been. I think it would be great if you could spend a lot more time really studying the classic architecture that, really represents Santa Barbara. When we go to, there's that rendering of the lobby entrance that you guys have, and you can see that there's been like the application of a small grill in the stucco, and it's very disproportionate. I like the concept of that, but I think that it's not really applied appropriately. I think that this project would benefit by trying to mix a few more colors, some more materials, incorporating maybe some stone into this project. I highly, maybe we can see if we can get a list of some other large projects that we've approved in the last year that could kind of show sort of some favorability. I'm gonna just say, I think we've all hit the whole vertical element with the windows and all that. It kind of looks like bars or prison rails, and I think that the towers are definitely a missed mark. I like the concept of the towers. I see that on the planning commission. They had suggested that you try and maybe study the courthouse tower a little bit more, which I don't know if this is an attempt to do that, but if it is, I think you might have missed it. And I also think that I just, we just have these vertical walls that go straight up, and I think that there really needs to be some stepping back in certain locations. Not everywhere, but some locations. I think that would really enhance the project dramatically. And again, sort of looking around the room at the images here, because you had said that, you had looked at these, and, I think that you can still see, horizontal roof lines, but just more articulation. That's not, I don't think crazy, but there's more of a variety. But when we look at the elevations you present, and I understand that we're never going to have that line of sight, it's still too repetitive. And I think that there's a ways to go, but I'm really confident that you guys are on the right track and are going to be able to figure this out.
Board Member Anderson?
Okay, can you flip to the site plan again? I think it was 58 or something, 59. Okay, my first comment is that I think there should be a paseo connecting the courtyards, and I think that is related to the planning comments as well about increased porosity and more public space in terms of functional, usable green space. And I also think that would help with the flow of space, like the chi of the space in here. So it's a very blocky building in my opinion, and I think there's something that's been lost since the last iteration And also gains made, I think it does look a lot calmer, and I think that does look better. It has a better feeling to me, but at the same time, the strong horizontality of that continuous eave, I think my understanding of the horizontality comment from the last review was more like, let's read a kind of banding or divisioning in the elevation, and not so much that the roofs all have to be exactly the same ridgeline and same eave across the length of the building. I think that's giving the building an almost oppressive feeling because the scale of this building is very large. And so to that, I would support moving more mass or studying moving more mass into the center of the building to create a kind of pyramid, and if needed to exceed or request a variance if that were needed to go a little bit above the height limit so that we could get a little bit of more of a pyramid condition and pull the massing of the building away from the frontage, at least on the primary pedestrian experiences of the building. So that I think could potentially help create also more balconies that don't feel like a vertical slot through the building. For instance, if you step back the massing, then that could then become a balcony. So I think that like visually from a pedestrian experience, it's kind of jarring, just like the length of this building and just how flat it feels. So in terms of like breaking up that mass, yeah, those are my, at this point I think it's not really about style. I think the massing is still kind of undercooked in my opinion. It needs much more study on how to really mass this building up so it doesn't feel like you just plopped a bunch of units down on the leftover space between the freeway exit and the shopping center. And then I think if that can happen, I think actually it would be quite an exciting building to be in. I think there's a lot of potential with this building because, like people are pointing out, there's a lot of similarities to the renderings around this room, and also like the Santa Barbara Courthouse has a giant arched throughway connection. So there's plenty of precedence for large format projects in this city. And also in terms of scale and proportion, because that came up in some of the public comments, I think, yeah, there needs to be a more careful understanding of proportioning and whatever the local vernacular, I guess, is here to better capture that sense of regional architecture, and it is happening at the level of the proportioning of towers. And so, yeah, in terms of story poles, should I comment on that now? Or I think that there should be some degree of that. And I don't know if we necessarily need to do the entire site, but I do think that would help understand, because these renderings are largely from a drone's eye or a bird's eye view, and I think that street understanding of just how large that's going to be at the street level, and maybe that is also a case for why it's maybe more pleasant to step some of the upper levels back a little bit and load it up like a pyramid. Anyway, that's my comments.
Thank you. Yes, to follow up on that, I'll start with the story poles. I also think there should be some sort of degree of that, especially on La Cumbra and the corner of La Cumbra and Calle Real. And so maybe there's opportunity to provide a story pole plan, and we can just locate a few key corners that are going to be super relevant to the public and to that pedestrian feel, because what we're not really understanding is the difference of elevation between your pathway on Calle Real and where your building is starting. And, you know, there is a difference, and the setback, because it does seem like you are trying to put enough landscape in between the pathway and the building to provide a better experience for the pedestrian. So I think when we get to that point, we should talk about a potential like partial story pole plan. I completely agree with everything every board member has said today. I think to help move it forward is even looking at the site plan right now, and even though this is one large building, treating each like wing as its own, almost like its own building, and that's where you can reference these images. And these images is gonna be hard because a lot of these are only 3-story, right? And we're doing a 4-story building. And to do Santa Barbara style in a 4-story building is not, it doesn't really work unless you really look at the overall proportions of that entire wing and you really study the proportions and yeah, it's difficult, and that's why it's not it's not fully registering to the residents and the people of Santa Barbara. The other thing with the Estancia project, that was like almost individual townhouses, and that's a completely different feel from this, and that is a little bit more relatable to someone walking around than a 4-story flat facade. So I think if you can break each of these pieces, even if it's like just 2 or 3, I think that's going to help a lot. The other thing with the windows, like we kind of mentioned last time, was as the building gets taller, the windows get smaller. And so right now, I know each unit is the same, and that's why you probably haven't looked into that. But I think it should be a very high consideration, and I think that will help with the feel of the facade. I also think if you don't want to lose square footage, maybe the bottom floor you build out, and it's not square footage, it's like a faux arcade or whatever you want to do there, creating your patios, which is then creating your balconies above. And then you can start to get that step back without fully losing like a unit pushed back. I do think you should consider the 4th floor either making those units smaller or their outdoor space comes to that face that we aren't really quite seeing and it's open to the sky. I'm not sure. Same thing on the building on La Cumbra, the amenity spaces I kind of mentioned in my questions. Do we need them? Can we get rid of them? Can they move to the leasing building? Can they move to the roof? Can they help reduce the appearance of the mass? Yeah, so I really did appreciate the landscape presentation. I thought that was well thought through. I thought the different ideas of the different layers of trees throughout was really interesting, and I think that would bring more interest to the project. Again, the photos that were shown as the precedent images were really nice, and I don't see how those don't relate to the architecture at all. There's a miscommunication between the two, and so maybe that is bringing in stone to the facade. Maybe that's just the first band of the first floor stone. Again, obviously we understand cost is something, so maybe there's something that mimics stone without making it look fake and from Orange County. So there's got to be some play there. And then on the Calle Real elevation, the south elevation, there was some actual moments where it started to look like some of these elevations up here. And I would actually consider reducing the amount of fenestration on that side since it's just a hallway and reducing the size of those windows. And I think the proportion of windows to mass is off, and it could be we're just reading that you have these vertical elements with all this tile, and so maybe we're just missing that, but the mass to fenestration, that proportion is off. But yeah, and so then the amenity building, I was a little, I know, so unfortunately we didn't get your 95-page document for us to read beforehand, so I apologize. And maybe there was something in there more about that building, but it is very jarring and opposite of what this is. And I think I appreciate it being different. So I think it just needs to be refined, and maybe some precedent images, and maybe like the public comment mentioned, finding some more California locality of dairy farm buildings, and then we can play off that. I also think the edge of this whole development is going to be important. So how are we interacting with the parking lot and the existing commercial spaces. So I think a little more information on that, the fence, the height, the planting around it, what do you see from the parking lot, what do you see from the pool? I think that's all important and needs to be defined. Any follow-up comments?
Yes, Chair Anderson, I want to add my support for story polls. All the members of the board have that ability to envision 3 dimensions in space, but the story polls are as much for the public, and we really want, and that's who we really serve, and we really want them to understand the visual impacts of this, not only from Calle Real and La Cumbre. I contend that you'll be able to see this from 101, so I lend my support to that.
I have a quick question and comment. Before the comment, what is the roof slope?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's 4 and 12, but I'm not 100% sure. It's
4 and 12, you
4 and
think?
12 or 5 and 12, one of the
Okay.
two.
I guess in my comment, thank you for the answering the question. My comment, I don't know that I would feel as strongly about the story polls, but it sounds like I may be outnumbered, so.
Well, I think my comment was more about the second building on South La Cumbre, and I definitely understand the complexity of doing a 4-story story pole. And so so I guess my concern is that building, specifically the corner, I can't point, but the corner where the road turns into, both corners really. So like the corner of Calle Real, South La Cumbre, and then where South La Cumbre and that side street turns, like that corner. So those would be, I don't know how many you would need to actually get that to stand up is the issue, so. That's, I mean, you basically need to build a building to put a story pole up.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
Right.
Well, not exactly. You're removing a lot of the territory of the site, right? Because the buildings are quite a bit lower than the existing ground level.
That would be helpful,
So the story poles will help us understand those finished heights,
Right.
which really isn't going to be a 4-story building on top of the existing site.
Okay. Yeah.
Chair Anderson, if I may, the applicant does have in the plan set some visuals to show the existing grade versus proposed relative to the proposed project that may be helpful and informative.
The blue dotted line.
The blue and red, yes. Oh, there are others actually at the end of the plan set that
Would you
are-
like to go there real quick?
Really?
No? Okay.
I think we've gotten through all of our comments. We've been here for quite a while.
What's your opinion on the story poles?
I think that the majority has suggested that. I think that the majority of the board has suggested that there should be some sort of story polls. I appreciated your suggestion of maybe them coming back with a plan of what they'd like to do for story polls. And that way, we're kind of creating a compromise.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, any other comments? We need to make a motion.
Can we talk about the massing briefly? Because I said, and I heard you say also that about potentially moving some of the mass to exceed the height in the center. Is that something that collectively we want to pursue that? Or?
Only if this was a high density like if they were going for the, what'd you call it? High density?
state density bonus.
State density bonus, sorry. Because then it would be something that they're just kind of allowed to do and are asking for forgiveness, whereas this is like a whole nother process. We'd be forcing them into a whole nother variance and time-consuming thing. So I'm not willing to push it to that, but I am willing to say that the 4th floor needs to be stepped back to the most extent feasible. Even if it's 2 feet, like anything would help.
So is there a way to step that back?
That's for them to figure
Yeah, we'll just say that that's what we want, and they're gonna study it.
Right. I'm just saying this because there were comments we said last time too, but those didn't happen. So I'm just, if we say it, it's not like, it'd be good to know proactively now what's realistic so that we can make realistic determinations on, well, maybe there's a better option here. That's what I'm saying.
Would you like me to respond?
Mhm.
Sure.
From a practical standpoint, it would be very difficult to do that.
To step
To
the
step the
unit.
building back.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so what about taking units and putting them on top of the existing floor plan and or relocating so that we still run the utility infrastructure all the way down?
So that would, we would be exceeding our building height, and that would be a problem in our entitlements, I think, as you mentioned. So I don't believe that we can do that.
Okay.
I've heard what your goals are, and I want to, certainly want to do what I can to address them. So I need to really kind of go back and see what we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not directed at you particularly or I'm having a conversation about, because there is a kind of sense of, how large from the street level even though this is a mid-rise building, but given the surrounding context being so low slung, I've seen similar projects in San Jose, for instance. There's a project, Valco Shopping Mall, that was very similar next to all the single-family and low-slung units, and they gradually sloped up the density so that it kind of blends the height difference between the two. And so that's where I'm thinking that kind of approach would be potentially more compatible with the surrounding neighborhood rather than having there be a 4-story building mass immediately adjacent to a 1 to 2 story context. But
Well, I think whoever makes the motion, someone can make that motion, but I don't think I'm willing to force them to do it, so. So who would like to make a motion? They're here for concept.
I'll make a motion.
Someone wants to leave.
All right. All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we continue this indefinitely, is that correct? And that the applicant go back and study the overall language of the architecture, try and come back with examples of inspiration of other Santa Barbara architecture so that the architectural style will be more cohesive with our environment. Specifically, maybe punching in windows instead of having these vertical indent columns with a tile in between. Study incorporating materials, the texture that's being used in the stucco, different sort of architectural details and elements, revisit and study the towers, explore reducing the massing as the structure increases in height. So that would mean probably a little bit more articulation, adding more variety with fenestration, shrinking the fenestration as we go up in height. Let's see. Was there anything else anybody would like me to include in this?
Troy had a comment about connecting the courtyards.
yeah, connecting the courtyard, the paseo.
And to study connecting the courtyards and addition of or creation of a paseo for this property. Anything else? Say again? We appreciate the effort that has come forth and have full confidence that this will be a great project in good time. And one last comment though is that for that the amenities building to study maybe other dairy structures around the state to provide context for us so we can see that there's ground for the the inspiration for that look. We don't disagree with having a different architectural style, but believe there's an opportunity to continue to improve what you've started.
Good.
Can I get a second for that motion? And then I also wanted to.
Oh, hold on. Let me add, and that we would like you to come back with a proposal for a modified story pole application, something that would be a compromise. We're not asking you to provide story poles for the entire structure and what you're building, but to come back with a suggestion that will help the general public maybe see the scale of the structure where it interacts with Calariel and La Cumbre the most. Good. Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I want to give them a little more narrow direction on the story poles. Are we talking both La Cumbre and Calle Real, or just La Cumbre, I think was where the main concern was?
The corner of La Cumbre and Calle Real, and then where La Cumbre and the side street.
Okay,
Great. Yeah.
I see,
The
okay.
two major corners.
okay.
Okay. Should we vote then?
Yes, is there any discussion? Did you have something you needed to say?
No, thank you, Chair Anderson. I just wanted to make sure that we captured the story poll comment in there.
Okay.
Thank you.
No discussion? No additions? Okay, let's take a vote.
Chair Anderson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Whalen.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Black.
Yes.
Board Member Noon.
Yes.
Board Member Sovereign.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
All right, thank you.
And we will adjourn our meeting for today.
Yeah, they just